Should you buy Dying Light in 2021? Welcome to Classic Game Reviews, where we go back in time and take a look at the games of the past, and today's game is Dying Light. We'll be talking narrative and gameplay. So, is Dying Light worth your money in 2021? Let's find out. Dying Light is an open-world survival horror game focused primarily on movement and quick decision-making with the resources you have access to, and provides tense yet fun gameplay that released back in January of 2015. It's basically Dead Island on every performance enhancer known to man, so if that sounds like something you would be interested in playing, stick around. Dying Light's weakest point is without a doubt its narrative. Dying Light once again focuses on finding a cure for the zombie outbreak in its narrative rather than focusing on something different or creative, so let's discuss why it's the weakest part of the game. First, the script for this game is genuinely terrible. It is a high school level of bad in my opinion. The script for Dying Light does the bare essentials and fails to grab you like a good script should. The issue isn't helped due to the extremely poor voice acting. I know I'm being very negative about it, but the voice acting is genuinely atrocious for a big budget title like Dying Light. However, a narrative isn't solely told through voice acting or script. One of the most overlooked narrative tools is atmosphere, and Dying Light nails that in ways most games wish they could. You can practically breathe in the world of Dying Light. The world is easily the best part of the game narratively, and you can feel the amount of care and passion that was put into the design of the open world, but I'll talk more about that in the gameplay section. The main character you play as is as basic as it can get. He speaks for a moment and says some exposition and then goes silent again while you roam the world. There are great ways at doing this, and for example Halo is a great example of this. Master Chief barely speaks, yet when he does, he gets straight to the point and treats the player like they have a brain, and in those cases a majority silent protagonist works for the sake of immersion, and Halo absolutely nails that sense of immersion and atmosphere, but Dying Light fails in that sense. Characters are stereotypical but get the job done, but once again it's the atmosphere that saves Dying Light's narrative. Despite Dying Light's flaws in storytelling, you can for some odd reason buy into it if you get yourself immersed into the world, and that shows how important the design of your world is to keep a player engaged. So to sum the narrative up, Dying Light is as cliche as it can get, but it keeps its charm through the clear passion required to create an open world game with so much atmosphere. If great storytelling is important to you, then maybe Dying Light just isn't for you, but this is when the gameplay comes in. Smash that like button if you're enjoying this content, maybe even consider sticking around by subscribing. Thank you for all your support. We just hit 120 subscribers, blows me away, never expected it this soon. Gameplay is king when it comes to Dying Light. The amount of fun I have had in this game is simply undescribable. This is honestly my favourite zombie game I've ever played. Dying Light absolutely nails what a zombie game should be: tense, action-packed, creative, and dumb fun. While the narrative lacks that creativity, the gameplay certainly does not. You have a ridiculous amount of weapons in Dying Light, all with fully customizable effects and traits, creating some of my favourite weapons I've ever used. You still have your traditional firearms and things like that, but the fun from Dying Light comes from experimenting and creating weapons you'd never be able to use in a traditional zombie game. I haven't even gotten on to the night sections in the game, creating a whole new atmosphere, which at first you'll hate due to the sheer terror you feel when you face a pack of super zombies, that's what I call them, chasing you down as you desperately try to run back to a safe place to avoid being eaten alive. Is the night sections perfect? No, unfortunately not. You will eventually be able to cheese these enemies once you've unlocked enough weapons and fully learned the parkour system, which by the way is terrific. But all the zombies are stronger at night, and it gives you that extra layer of gameplay depth because you're less likely to take a risk and you more want to run around them rather than facing them head on, and it adds another layer to the gameplay, which means you won't get as bored as easily as compared to other games in a similar genre. I've never played a first-person single-player game with a parkour system this great. I'm yet to find a game that beats Dying Light's natural parkour system. You could argue games like Titanfall 2 have better movement systems, but in terms of normal, natural human movement, nothing comes close to what Dying Light has to offer. It's an experience you can't get from any other game, and heavily recommend the game just for that system alone. Not only is it a great movement system, but it also flows well into combat mechanics, and it's honestly almost flawless. There are some rough bits around the edges, but they occur so briefly you'll barely remember them after you've just escaped a pack of super zombies. Multiplayer is also fantastic. The developers are still supporting Dying Light to this day, 6 years after its release, with community events, and don't get me started on the DLC. Co-op is the best way to play Dying Light due to the sheer amount of fun you will have with your mates, fighting off zombies, showing off all your cool unique weapons, and honestly, it's so chilled out just to explore the world with some people you've met online. There really is nothing like it on the market today, and the sequel is probably just a few years off, so it's definitely worth getting into right now. The multiplayer varies from basic co-op stuff to full-blown DLC with vehicles and specific raid-like missions. They're raid-like missions, not full raids, but they're similar in design. But unfortunately, those raid type missions are nowhere near the same quality as something like Destiny 2 or games that are focused primarily as looter shooters. So if you're expecting full-blown raids, don't go into that expecting that. It's not what this game is. I can say with absolute confidence Dying Light is an absolute classic, and you should absolutely buy Dying Light if you can ignore the pretty bad narrative and just want to have a game that you can sit down and enjoy for hours on end. Do not miss out on Dying Light. Thank you for watching.